I just worked 4 days at my job, 4 days on that house, 4 days at my job, 4 days on that house for 6 months straight. I was probably 23 years old, and I started having some internal battles because I was like, wow, I'm 23 and this kind of sucks. I don't really like this job that much. I don't want to do this until I'm 80. I remember getting off of night shift and going and trying to finish painting a kitchen. One of the first deals that I did from that marketing strategy, I made $50,000 on it. And that $50,000 deal came off of a 63-cent postcard.
All right. Welcome to another episode of the Agent to Investor podcast, where we talk about the agent side of real estate investing. We'll be talking about the successes, the failures, and all in between. My name is Nico Garcia, local real estate agent and investor based out of Montgomery County, Maryland. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host,
Anna Bialik, Northern Virginia realtor and mostly out-of-state investor.
And we have another wonderful guest, another rock star, another friend from our RPM community. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good, brother. Good, brother. And we heard you on Coach Carson's pod. Really loved your story. Loved your mindset and what you're up to. So wanted to invite you on and kind of talk about your real estate journey. But before then, I'd love to give you some space to introduce yourself, where you're from and what got you initially into real estate.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate y'all having me on here. I'm excited I could talk about real estate forever. So whenever I get on a podcast and just do it kind of willy-nilly and just keep rolling, I'll talk forever. So I try to reel myself. But so I am from Florence, South Carolina. My name's Kyle Doriety. Been investing in real estate and then just entrepreneurship in general for a little over maybe about 5 years now. So I've been doing a bunch of buy and hold rentals, doing more and more fix and flip, kind of taking it from a hobby to a business in the last year or so, doing some marketing, making the phone ring, like I said, kind of making more of a business of it than just a hobby.
So what did you do before 5 years ago?
Yeah. So growing up, I guess you want to start way back there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not old, but it seems like So yeah, growing up, I was from a, normal, I guess, kind of lower middle class, middle class household, good family, hardworking mom, hardworking dad. I went to private school most of my childhood, private Christian school, and I learned a lot of good values there, I think. But there were some things I didn't love about it. I'm more extroverted sometimes. I like to, be around people, and there wasn't a whole lot of folks going to school. There's a small school. So in high school, I convinced my parents to let me switch and go to public school for the first time. I loved it. I was like meeting new people all the time. I was having a blast. It was good. So I learned a lot of good stuff in public school too, Then I graduated from high school, went to a tech school for 2 years, and got a mechanical engineering degree, a 2-year mechanical engineering degree. And so when I'll back up a little bit. In high school, my mom was kind of on me. She's a hard worker, and she's like, hey, you need to be thinking about what you're going to do when you grow up, all this other stuff. And so I told her, I was like, I want to own my own business. And my dad had a friend who owned a business. It was a used car lot, and I didn't want to own a used car lot, but I saw that he was pretty flexible. He was kind of able to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. Fast forward now, looking back, I know more about his story. He's actually got tons of real estate and stuff. So he was actually a real estate investor too. I just didn't know it. But so she was like, you need to get a job, benefits, insurance, 401k, all that stuff. So I was like, well, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. So that'll bring me back up to graduating from the tech school. I got an internship at a big corporate company here in town. It's kind of like one of the coveted places to work. A lot of young men want to work there. They, pretty good paying job. And I got an internship there. If I'm going too fast, tell me. I feel like I'm blurring through this.
No, you're
I'm
doing
following the
great.
journey.
I am. And I'm afraid to ask how old you are because you're like, wait, do you want me to start way back? And I'm like, wait, more than 5 years ago? Were you like in high school? Because then I feel old as hell. But sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, so I got this internship at this company, and you know, I'm a Christian, and I believe that God, I believe in God and everything. So I prayed for this position. I got this internship. I worked really hard, um, and I was like, I want to get hired. I get hired on after about a year of my internship. I was working and going to school for a period, and then I was just doing a full time internship. Uh, so I got my job, and then I was like, well, I want to work. I want this specific position in this department. And so I worked really hard, and I ended up getting that position that I wanted. And then I was like, well, I want to move through my pay progressions. I want to top out in pay for that position. And so I worked really hard, the same thing, and I topped out. And I was probably 23 years old then, and I started having some internal battles because I was like, wow, I'm 23, and you know, this kind of sucks. I don't really like
Mhm.
this job that much. I mean, it's okay, but I don't want to do this until I'm 80.
Yep.
It's hot, it's nasty, it's really hard work. Um, but so I started doing a lot of praying, a lot of soul searching. I felt like God had given me all that I asked for. I got the internship, I got the job, I got the position, I moved up in pay, and all of that stuff. And I just didn't feel satisfied. And so I ended up kind of going back to that 17-year-old Kyle who wanted to work for himself. And I said, well, that's what's wrong is I'm doing what everyone else thinks I'm supposed to do and probably not what I'm really made to do. Um, then I was like, well, I know now I want to work for myself, but I don't have any idea what I want to. I don't know if I don't want to own a landscaping company. I don't think I want to be, my background's like electrical, mechanical kind of stuff. I was like, I don't really want to own an electrical company or anything like that. That's not what I want. And just a lot of YouTube, a lot of Bigger Pockets podcasts, a lot of book. And I landed on real estate, and I was like, I think that's what I want to do. And
Kyle, can I pause you right there?
Yeah, please do.
I love that journey. It sounds like you're a really hard worker. You were praying, you got your position through this internship, you worked your way up to, the job you really wanted. And I think the story is kind of relatable because, there's a lot of people out there that are hardworking, and they understand the value of going in, working hard in your W-2 and working up the pay grade and just not feeling satisfied once they get there. What do they call it? The golden handcuffs, and you're there and you're essentially not satisfied. I can relate to you, Kyle. I always had the entrepreneurial mindset, and I did the W-2 after college, and it just wasn't for me. So I just wanted to pause right there because I'm sure there's a ton of people listening that are in that same boat, and just wanted to kind of say, hey, you're not alone, Kyle.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And for anybody who's listening, like, you don't have to do that the rest of your life. Like, I know it seems like insurmountable to like create something that will help you escape that job. But and I felt the same way. But just keep pushing, just, one foot in front of the other. You never feel like you're going to get anywhere. I imagine this thing. In fact, I want to, this would be the first time I've said this out loud. I want to get a painting or a drawing made of like a guy pushing a huge boulder up a hill. And like, you can't see over the boulder, but there's a hill and you're about to push that rock and it's going to start rolling. You know what I'm saying? But if you turn around and walk away, you never know, you might be 5 feet from gold. You just got to keep going over and over and over, and eventually it'll pay off.
Love it.
And the fear of that too. I mean, I'm going to interject because you said your mom, and it reminds me of mine. Like, not just like the golden handcuffs, but the stepping out on faith and not being afraid of what other people will think. Because your parents, if it's anything like mine, they're like, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? You have a secure job. You have like everything you could ever want. Why are you doing this? That's a whole another level of faith and like fearlessness that you have to get past, not just the golden handcuffs, but what other people think in your life that don't think like that.
Yeah. I tell, I've got a younger sister, she's 19, and she just started her own business, like straight out of high school. She did some training and stuff, but no college, no nothing, and started her own business. And I told her, 80% of success, and that's probably an inflated number, but a large percentage of success is learning to ignore well-intentioned people who have no idea what they're talking about. People that really, really love you and they want to see what's best for you. But when they come to you and say, "Oh, well, my uncle's grandma's brother had a rental house one time and somebody, tore up the sink," I'm like, just don't pay those people. And they don't know. They want to help, but they just don't know, So you got to learn to ignore those people. It's hard to do, but
Yeah, and it's often the ones that are closest to you, so you
yeah.
value their opinion. But talk to me, Kyle, about that beginning stage. What initially sparked you to kind of look into real estate? I know you were looking at YouTube and things like that. What brought you there?
Yeah. So I was listening to Bigger Pockets a lot, and that was back Brandon Turner, and in fact, Brandon Turner and this is bad because the guy who like started Bigger Pockets, I can't remember, Josh
Dorkin.
Everybody remembers Brandon. I feel like, or Josh never get recognition.
It's like Steve Jobs and that other guy.
Yeah, yeah. So I was listening to them at first, and then it was like David Green and Brandon Turner and all. But like everybody they would ask, what's a book, one book that you recommend or something along those lines at the end of the show. And everybody kept saying, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I was like, I got to read this thing. And so I read it, and man, my whole world flipped upside down. I was like, man, nobody ever taught me any of this stuff. I thought that like, you're supposed to get a job making 7 figures a year, working for some big corporation, punching a clock, working 50, 60 hours a week or more. And that was like success. But for me, I was like, I don't want to do that, So when I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it changed everything. And 90 days, I read the book, and within 90 days, I bought my first house. I was fired up. I was like, I got to go buy a house. I got to figure it out. I got to go buy a house. I got to learn. I got to fail forward.
What did that first deal look like? Now I'm curious. I was like, where did you find it? How did you finance it? How did it do?
Yeah. So it was 2020. I called a realtor, the realtor that I used to buy my primary residence. I called him and was like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to start buying rentals. If you can help me anyway, So he was sending me some leads. I was looking on Zillow, and he had a listing at their brokerage. And it was an older set, like a 70s model house in a good neighborhood, had the original kitchen in it. So it was a horrible kitchen. It was so ugly. And they wanted $98,000, I think was the asking price. Do you want to like get into the details of like how I got the deal done, or?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Because
Yeah.
I think this holds a lot of people back, right? They think
That
the real
first
estate,
one?
yeah,
Yeah.
that first one
Yep.
is 0 to 1, and they think it's,
It
very
is hard.
extensive and things
It's-
like that. But would love to talk about, how you found that deal and how you structured it and
Sure.
what made it appealing.
So I had $15,000 that I had saved up that I was willing to risk, and so the house was, I think 98,000 was the asking price. So if I was going to have to put 20% down, it would have taken all of my cash, but I needed to renovate the kitchen. I think a lot of folks would say, well, the deal's dead. Like there's no, you can't do it. You got to have a cheaper house. Well, I just called bank after bank after bank after bank, trying to figure out a way to make the deal work. And I finally called a little federal credit union, and they would loan 80% of the appraised value, period. And so for those who don't know, the value in that is most banks will loan 80% of the appraised value or the sale price, whichever is lower. So we ended up getting them to 90,000 on the contract price. And then we had the appraisal done. The appraisal came in at like 100,000. So now I was able to put 80%, they gave me a loan for 80% of the appraised value. So I was able to put $10,000 down, and then I had the other 5,000 to renovate the kitchen with. And so we went in, renovated the kitchen. I did everything myself, put granite in it, painted the cabinets. I mean, it looked nice. there was a weird closet in that house that was like, it was like bedroom, bathroom, and a weird closet in the bathroom. And so we took that closet and just put a shower in there and made it 2 full baths because it was 1.5. And so I didn't even know at the time what kind of value that would bring. I just thought, dang, that closet makes sense to be a shower. And so yeah, we got that one done. It rented for I think 1,200 at the time. And so I was in it for like 100 grand. And it rented for 1,200, and now it rents for 1,550 today.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a few key nuggets that I love from this story is, you saw a deal and you leveraged, an agent that you already worked with, which is awesome. And then you called several banks, right? Like if one lender won't lend to it, and you personally think it's actually a good deal, keep going, keep asking around. Cause, if it is a good deal, the money will find you. Right. And then second of all, I love that you created value, whether it was intentional or unintentional. You saw a closet and you were like, that doesn't make much sense. Why don't we, create a bathroom or a shower, and, it makes it more rentable. So, keeping your end buyer or end tenant in mind, and doing things that are going to make it more appealing to them can help you get, higher rents. And, I just love the mindset that you had, go in, whether I'm feeling forward, whether it's just a risk that you were willing to take, because it's one that so many people do think that they want to do, and they just hesitate. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how much is that house worth now? Cause that was in 2020.
It's worth $175,000, I think, right now. Yeah.
Look at that.
So in 5 years, you gained $75,000 in equity.
Yeah. Yeah. Even like the unspoken return on that, well, there's a few of them, but one of them is like the neighbor next to that house. I spoke to her and said, hey, and keep in mind for those listening, like I had no idea what I was doing. This was the first house I ever bought. And all I had was $15,000, but I told the neighbor, if you ever want to sell your house, let me know. I don't know how I was going to buy it, but I just told her, hey, if you decide you want to sell, let me know. Well, 2 years later, she called and I bought her house. Then the neighbor to the other side of that house, I spoke to them. They were a nice young couple. I told him, I said, hey man, I like this neighborhood. I buy houses over here. He ended up calling me about the house next to him and said, hey, this guy wants to sell. And I bought that house. So now like I'm accumulating, I'm playing Monopoly, like, what is it? 4 greenhouses in a red motel or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, they're just all just because of that one deal that I figured the other deals out as they found a way to kind of figure it out. Not that I'm great or smart or anything, but just grit and just trying to figure it out.
And you put yourself out there. Most people wouldn't go next door and say, I'll buy it from you. They would stay quiet and be the quiet investor in the beginning. But you actually went out there and said, hey, I'll buy it. So you actually also put yourself out there.
Yeah. And it took her 2 years now, keep in mind. Like I got a text message and it said, the name, all I had was her first name saved, and her name popped up at like 10 o'clock at night. And my wife said, who is that? I said, I don't know who that is. And I looked at it and the text that was like, this is who this is, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So you never know.
So did you keep following up with her, or was that just, you said it to her once?
I never touched her again. Like I didn't even like, I did not even understand the power of follow up and making touches at that time. So I literally just met her once, gave her my phone number, never spoke to her again. 2 years later, she sent me a text.
Yeah. Clearly made an impression.
Yeah. Planted the seed. That's awesome, Kyle. And it sounds like you became like, a market expert on that specific street, which is, for anybody listening, that could be a value in its own. But I'd love to know, once you got that first one, you got proof of concept, you got a tenant in there, were you just fired up and ready to get the next one?
Oh yeah.
What was that time frame looking like?
Yeah. So I was on fire after that. And I knew that I needed people like I said, I grew up in a middle-class household, great family, hardworking family, but I did not know anyone at that time with any wealth. And so I knew I needed to get in touch or around people who had already done what I wanted. I was just like on Bigger Pockets looking for people in my area, and I live in a fairly small area, so there's not a lot, you know. I ended up finding like 2 guys on there. I messaged both of them on Instagram. We've both done deals together today. Both of them are great guys. And, but the first one that I got in touch with, he's an older guy. He's got a bunch of single family rentals, got a few commercial rentals. And, he kind of took me under his wing and really poured into me for a while. And we developed a great, he's one of my best friends now. And, so we flipped a house, a really nice house, in a nicer higher end neighborhood. And, we flipped that house. We made $100,000 on it. I had no money in the deal. All he said was, "Hey, I got this house. I'm going to flip it. I want you to do basically whatever I tell you to do, and I'll split the profit with you." And I didn't ask any questions. I was like, "I don't care. I don't care if he wants to be, plumbing, crawling under the houses. I don't care. I'll do any of it." And there was no agreement. Literally, he could have taken his $100,000 and run, and I wouldn't even care, because all I thought about was, if I can just learn the process of buying the house, renovating it, listing it, selling it, all of that stuff. If he runs away with the money, I just won't do any more deals with it. No big deals. But he didn't. So he gave me 10,000 cash. He took 10,000 cash, and we took 80,000, and we stuck it up, and we waited on another deal. And then that would have been my third real estate deal I did with him, and we bird that deal. And for anybody who doesn't know, that's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So we bird that one. And when I saw that happen, I was like, we just put $80,000 into this. We purchased it for $80,000. We put $20,000 in rehab, and it appraised for $165,000. And we pulled all of our money back out. And I thought to myself, we just got a free house. Like, I've always heard about it. I heard it on the podcast and stuff like that. But when I saw it really happen, I was like, dang. And then by that time, I had really, so it had been, I would say 2 years since the first deal. So I went 2 years there, and all I did was the first rental, the flip, and the third deal was the burr. And I didn't know how to find deals or anything, but I had really been focusing on cutting my expenses and increasing the income as much as I could by that point. So I had saved up about $100,000 at that time of cash. And when I saw that burr happen with that partner, I just took that $100,000 and I just started burring deals, and I would just rinse and repeat the same money over and over and over again. I really caught traction when I wrapped my mind around the burr process.
Love it. So you mentioned you found this gentleman, and essentially he, was a mentor, and it sounded, I love that you were talking about, if he took that 100K and ran off, the value is actually the learning, right? And being with people that are actually doing what you want to be doing. So I love that that mindset. A lot of people are like, they have the, what is it, with them, what's in it for me? I want all the money, but I love that mindset and trying to provide value. Kyle mentioned he's ready to go into crawl spaces and whatever we need to do to get this deal done. Because that's, being a newer investor, you really have to be scrappy. And correct me if I'm wrong, you were doing all this while you still had your W-2, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was, that burr deal that I did with that partner. I worked 4 days. My shifts were 4 days on, 4 days off, 4 days on, 4 days off. So I would switch from nights to days every 4 days. And, I would say 6 months, probably. The partner, he found the deal. He helped me with the flip. So, and he's a businessman. He has a lot of stuff going on. And so for me, like, I didn't expect him to really do anything in that house. He did help a little bit. But I would say 90% of it. And I just worked 4 days at my job, 4 days on that house, 4 days at my job, 4 days on that house for 6 months straight, probably. That was a really, really big renovation. We had to do a lot of work to that house. And I learned so much about construction and stuff, throughout that process.
Talk to us about that, though. Were you actually swinging the hammer? Did you have to kind of delegate and talk to people?
Yeah. So he had like a couple of employees that helped with his rentals, like handyman stuff. but they stayed pretty busy working on his stuff. So when they were available, they would come over and help me. But yes, I did literally, I swung the hammer. I crawled under the house. I ripped everything out. I put everything back in. I put the tile on the backsplash. You know, like I said, I learned so much about construction throughout that process. And I think that's important. And maybe it's not for everybody. But for me, I think I don't do as much of that anymore. But the value is when a contractor comes in and tells me it's going to be $5,000 to put that subway tile on the kitchen backsplash, I'm going to tell him to kick rocks because I've done it before. You know, I know how expensive it is, and I know what the time, like how much time it takes. So I have a fairly good understanding of what the cost should be. Yeah, so that really helped me out just doing all. And that's not the only house that I did everything on. I mean, every deal up until about a year ago that I did, you know, I did everything pretty much myself.
Were you just always handy? Was it YouTube University? I mean, I know you had your degree, but I mean, that I don't think they taught you how to put up subway tiles.
I don't think I learned anything at Tech other than like I got a piece of paper that qualified me for a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, I mean a lot of YouTube. Like I remember there being like me a bunch of times, like I didn't know how to put tile on the backsplash in that specific house. Like I watched YouTube on how to put the tile backsplash on. I remember getting off of night shift and like going and trying to finish painting a kitchen. And I got done painting and there was like a little bit more that needed to be done, but I had to wait on it to dry. And like I just kicked back on the subfloor. I mean, there was no covering on it. There was just wood. I just laid down and took me a little 30-minute nap, got back up and finished painting. And, you know, however long it was, I don't remember. But yeah, a lot of YouTube, just figuring it out as I went. I didn't know. My dad does a little bit of that stuff, so he would help me. Yeah, I mean, YouTube, you can do anything with YouTube. And now you got Chat GPT. I didn't have that. You know, so between Chat GPT and YouTube, like I think you could be a surgeon or a lawyer or whatever. You know?
Yep.
You can get scrappy, but that's cool, Kyle. So you were kind of learning as you go, and I think that knowledge on its own, knowing what's going into the building a home and getting it rent ready. What type of rentals were you doing? Were you doing the traditional long term, or mess with any of the? I know one of the hurdles is, you hear all these things, especially with social media. Hey, you got to do midterm. Hey, you got to do fix and flips. Hey, you got to do this. How did you kind of gear into, first your buy box and two, your actual strategy once you bought these properties?
Yeah. So I had listened to enough podcasts. Well, to answer your question first, concisely, long-term rentals, boring, plain Jane long-term rental. That I think that I just love them. I think that they're little oil wells. I think that's a Brandon Turner thing. Like they just keep pumping every month over and over and over. They're not fancy. They're not sexy. But that's what I enjoy. You can ride waves with we can see this now in hindsight, the big Airbnb waves. You got to have Airbnbs and now in a lot of markets, you can see that declining. But to get back to it. Yeah. So they're just all, long-term rentals. I had listened to enough podcasts to kind of understand what type of neighborhood I wanted to buy in. So I was looking for, like nicer entry, like young professional workforce housing. If that makes sense. A lot of my tenants are either younger couples, that are just getting started working at we got a few big employers around here. They're working at a place like that. Or I have some older tenants who have kind of downsized. And so when I first started, I knew that that's the kind of neighborhoods I wanted to start with. I was a little bit more afraid of some of the lower end stuff when I first started. I had some opportunities on like some mobile home parks, but they were rough. They needed work, and I was kind of too scared to pull the trigger on it. Hindsight, I kind of wish I'd have done it, but the timing probably just wasn't right. Nowadays, I'm not as afraid of that anymore. I think it's okay to have a blend of, to get some $800 to $2,000 a month rents, and you've got a little bit of everything in all of those categories. It's probably a pretty good portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And where were you generating all these leads? I know you mentioned your first one was through an agent, and that's the only person you knew that was in real estate that could help you with lead flow. But where were you getting it? I know it's changed a little now because you're being proactive, but those initial stages, were you networking with other people, other agents, or?
Yeah. So that I think is where I was making a mistake for anybody who's listening who wants to kind of grow, is I was just talking about it with people, trying to make contacts in person with folks, and but I was essentially waiting on a deal to fall in my lap every day. I didn't know how to find deals. I was looking at them on Zillow and I was underwriting a ton of deals. I would, go in there and see, do the numbers work? What would I have to offer to make the numbers work? Um, and if you do that on Zillow, you'll find that you're going to have to offer 50% of the asking price or something in a lot of cases. Um, but yeah, so I had all of the leads that I got were just word of mouth leads, like that lady I spoke to in the yard, the neighbor next door, uh, the first bird deal that I did with that partner. He had a little bit of a network in real estate, so that deal came to him organically. Um, but yeah, in the beginning, that's what I was doing, and I don't think that's a good plan. I mean, if you want to buy like a handful of houses over the next 10 years, maybe that's a good plan. But if you really want to, get some speed and scale and grow, definitely not a good plan.
But I love that you brought that up. One of the benefits of doing what you did is, you're going direct to seller.
Mhm.
We talk about that a few different episodes before, but there's pros, right? Less competition. Sometimes the sellers don't really know how much their home is worth, and you're able to get it at a good discount or a good deal for you. I agree with you. If you're looking to scale, you need to get with, investor friendly agents. You need to get with wholesalers or people that are actually going out and generating leads.
Yeah.
And I know you now have a more systematic way. I know we talked about this the other day on the phone of how you're actually going and getting these off market deals. You mind talking about like that, like how you're going and finding these deals now?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said in the beginning, just waiting on deals to fall in my lap. For me, I wanted a business. I wanted to get out of my job. I wanted to be a real estate investor. I wanted, fix and flip, and I wanted to do this full time. So I knew that just sitting here waiting on these deals to come wasn't going to work. I knew that making offers on Zillow probably wasn't going to, unless you're just making hundreds of offers, just casting a large net, waiting on them to come. So I was, uh, I was scrolling on Instagram, and there was Chad Carson with $100 off market deal finder course, $99 actually. So, uh, but so I was like, well, what am I got to lose? $100. I'm going to take the course. So I took the course, and that was like a trajectory changer for me. So I took that course and I learned how to do off market marketing and how to make the phone ring. Like that's what I was missing all those years. I was like, I don't know how to make people call me and say, I want to sell you my house. And so once I took that course, yeah, it just changed everything. I get a lot of leads now, and I was just thinking, you were talking about the Zillow or on market deals and stuff. I'll have people send, even Facebook Marketplace, I'll have people send me deals that are on there, and I never thought that this would happen, but I have so many other leads that if I'll look at it and it even might be a fair deal, but I'm like, I don't want to fight with the other idiots on Facebook Marketplace and Zillow who are going to be also after this thing. I just want it. Like, I'll look at it, and if it's just not jumping off the page, a screaming deal, I'll just pass it, because I've got so many other leads that are coming that I know are going to be easier fish to catch, that I'm the only person having that conversation with them. I'm helping them out.
So $99 well spent is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and also, I don't mean this arrogantly or anything, but I spent $99 on that course. And one of the first deals that I did from that marketing strategy, I've made $50,000 on it. So I think it paid for the $100 course.
The ROI, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, kudos to you for going out and actually implementing what you're learning in the course. A lot of people learn
Take
on
the
a
course and
course,
that's it.
Yeah.
and not really implement it. So what we won't give away all the key, you'll have to get the course to get all the
Or
meat and
join RPM.
potatoes or join RPM. But what kind of
Use my link.
strategy?
Don't use their link. Use my link.
I love it. I love it. But what strategy did you end up, going to? I know you were going direct to seller, which is great. Like you said, less competition. But were you like sending out mailers? Were you cold calling, or how did that look?
Yeah. So it was primarily in the beginning, it was just direct mail. Yep.
Okay.
It was all direct mail. And that $50,000 deal came off of a 63-cent postcard.
Little
And
postcards are
were you?
magical.
Yeah, I mean, Anna and I both use postcards. We use a software called Deal Machine. Were you using any softwares, or were you
Yep.
actually? Okay.
Yeah. So in the course, they gave you like a free trial for Deal Machine and showed you how to use it, all that stuff. And so I'm still using Deal Machine today. Yeah. I think it's got really good data on it. It's good skip tracing information.
Okay.
I don't have many complaints. I wish they had a built-in CRM that was all encompassing within Deal Machine, but
I
you
think
can
Chad
get
might
some
know a
other.
guy you can say that to.
Oh yeah, just
Kyle, I know a lot of the gap to getting a deal is there's so many different ways, right? Like actually getting deals and knowing your buy box, and then actually like closing a deal. So when you are getting these phone calls from people that are like, "Hey, Kyle, I would like to sell my home." What are some things that you're asking on the phone, and how do you get that appointment?
yeah. In the beginning, I was just stumbling. Like I sounded probably like an idiot. They were like, "I ain't selling this guy my house," but now it just takes reps. So the more I did it, the more I looked stupid. The better I got at it, and the less I look stupid. So nowadays, when someone calls, I'll just say, "Hey, I'm a local guy. It's just me and my wife. I'm not a big company. I'm probably less than 30 minutes from you right now." Um, and I said, I sent a lot of those letters out because oftentimes people will think because I sent a letter to 123 Main Street, they call me, they think that's the only letter I sent and that I've been looking at this house every single day or something. So I'll have to explain to them, hey, I sent a lot of those letters out. So I don't know every single one of the properties that well. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Is it a rental? Um, is it a vacant lot? Is there even a house on it? Just catch me up to speed on it. And I think just that vulnerability, I guess, of just saying, hey, I'm local. I do send a lot of these letters out. So can you just catch me up to speed on it? Just being straight, just being honest,
And
Um,
asking open-ended questions, right? Have them, try and give you the story behind the house.
yeah. And sometimes you'll get people who are kind of tough to get. And then sometimes you'll have somebody just trauma dump on you, everything that's ever happened in their whole life about how their grandma left them and everything else. But, you don't get paid to be a therapist, but you got to
You
do it
kind
a
of
little
do.
bit. Yeah.
Specifically, I know I mean, you mentioned like, catch me up to speed and asking open-ended questions, but is there anything like when you're on the phone and listening that you're really trying to key in on, like, what's the age of the roof, or,
Yeah.
kind of get the condition, or?
Yeah. So more specifically, so we'll start there. This is my name. I'm local. Catch me up to speed. That'll be the first thing, and they'll kind of tell me about it. Let's say it's a single family house. Then I'll start diving in on, more specific deals. Have you updated it any in the last 5 years? Is it vacant or is it rented? Uh, how about the roof? Is there anything? This is a question that I ask probably every seller. Is there any huge repair that has to be done? Like there's a tarp on the roof right now, or that the air condition doesn't work, or that there's a hole in the floor because the refrigerator fell through, or something like that. Like big repairs that have to be done, and that will get you, a feel. Well, if it needs a roof, you got to spend $8,000 on a roof or whatever the square foot is. If it needs a HVAC, it's going to be $6,000 for HVAC. So those will start knocking big chunks out. And then if you can get some pictures, I'll ask for some pictures. So those are some of the questions that we, roof, big repairs. Can we get some pictures? Have you done any renovations? And then we'll kind of like spend some time on the repairs for a little while. And then I'll ask, what's your timeline? That's another question. Like, do you want to sell it tomorrow, or are you just testing the waters? Because a lot of people are just kicking tires. Like, they're going to tell you they want 120% of full retail value on it, and it's just not a deal. So we'll ask for their timeline, and sometimes that'll give you a feel for how motivated they are. If they say, I wish I could have sold it last month, you know that they really want to get rid of it. And then after all of that, then I'll say, well, what is the least you would take for it? Today, all cash. We're not coming in worried about, because the window's got a crack in it or whatever. We don't care about the condition. We're going to be the easiest person to sell to. We'll give you all cash. What's your bottom dollar? And then hopefully you get an answer out of them. But Justin Foster, I've spent a fair amount of time with Justin Foster kind of helping me with some of this stuff. And his rule is like, I think 3 or 4 times you have to ask for the sale price before you ever say a number. And when I first started, that was extremely uncomfortable. And I kind of thought that I had to say, what's your bottom dollar? And what they'll oftentimes say is, well, you sent me
What's
a letter.
yours?
I was hoping you'd make me an offer. And so then I thought I had to say, okay, well, I was hoping you'd make me an offer. And then, like literally 4 times back to back. And after doing it for a while, I've learned that's, first of all, it doesn't work. And second of all, if you just say, what's your offer? If they come back and don't want to say it, then go back, say, well, you mentioned the roof. Spend some time on the roof for a minute and then weave your way back and say, okay, well, considering that information, what would be the bottom dollar you take? Right. Well, I want you to give me an offer. Well, then weave yourself over to, well, you said your grandma left you this property. How long ago did, and just kind of move the conversation around. You don't have to ask 4 times directly back to back. But if you can get 3 or 4 asks, that's good. And then after all of that, I feel like I'm rambling, but after all of that, if I can't get a number out of them, I will normally say, well, listen, if you got an all cash offer, no strings attached, easy, it'll be done in less than 30 days. What would you say if you got an offer at $30,000 or, whatever the number is? And that was also a Justin Foster, coaching moment where he's like, what would you say if you got the offer? You kind of float the offer to them. Then if they blow up on you and say, that's stupid, I'm not going to take that offer. Then you say, well, I'm not saying that's my offer. I'm just saying, what would you say if you got an offer there?
Get a feel of the seller. I mean,
Yeah.
I agree, Kyle. I've dealt with sellers, and I'm sure Anna has as well, that are just like, I mean, you sent me the postcard. Tell me. And I love that rule of like asking 3 times, kind of weaving it back and, getting those touch points, right? The roof, or, hey, like, you said this timeline, you're in foreclosure. You need to sell this house. Like, what's the bottom dollar? So kind of weaving that in. I love those tips.
Yeah. It's so nice when you get a seller who says their number. I'm like you just saved me so much headache and hassle of trying to pull that number out of you.
Yeah.
So then what? Like, if they give you a number, like, do you say, what's your follow-up strategy? Do you say, okay, let me crunch the numbers and I'll get back to you? Or are you like, sale, let's go? Like,
well, every now and again, like, I'll know, like, if it's a deal, and that's not extremely often, but every now and again, like, they'll say, I'll take $10,000, and I'm looking at a comp right next door in similar condition that sold for $30,000 or $40,000 or whatever. You get some of those, and you say, okay, well, I think I can do that. Could we put it under contract? Could I send you a contract? But if it's not an obvious, base hit, or home run, I would say, okay, if you'll take 30,000, is it okay if you give me, a day? Let me crunch some numbers. Let me do a little bit of math on it. Let me see what I can do, and I can give you a call back tomorrow sometime. And honestly, for me, I mean, 90% of the time they answer, the next day, and they're willing to talk. And I'll always ask them too, like, what time works for you tomorrow? And, if they say 11 a.m., I'm calling them at 11 a.m. on the dot. And so, yeah, that's kind of how the follow-up would go.
So what I think a lot of sellers kind of connect with you, Kyle, is yes, there's a fine line of being like aggressive, but also like friendly and personable, right? You're not trying to shove this offer down their throat. You're
Yeah.
asking them questions and really being personable, and even giving that option, like, hey, $30,000. I might have to talk to a partner. I'm gonna, question numbers and get back to you and do that professional follow up, and not actually like, no, we need to sign this today. I think that's probably helped you close up a ton of deals right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so for sure. And anybody who's done a little bit of sales training and stuff, you hear about like matching people's energy. Sometimes you'll get people who are a little more abrasive, and I feel like, that's good advice to match them. But I oftentimes find that I can kind of match them and wring them down out of that
Mhm.
abrasive. If you can pull them out of that and get them to open up a little bit, like you don't have to be harsh the whole time you're on the phone back and forth.
Mhm.
If you can pull them out of that kind of demeanor, and get them to open up, it helps a lot.
Yeah, okay. So Kyle, I know we're getting close on time, but I know in our community you just announced that you were able to, hit your goal and step away from your W-2. So first of all, congratulations. And second of all, what is your advice for like people that are were in your situation? They're like, how can I even think about that? Right? I'm working, and yes, I'm saving a little bit of money, but that's so far fetched. So like, I can't even think of that goal of retiring from real estate.
Yeah. Yeah. My advice is, first of all, you got to decide that's what you want. If that's really what you want, and how bad do you want it? Because it's not easy by any means. But it's simple. Like it's hard to do. It's hard to imagine. It's hard work, but it's simple. It's answer the phone, make offers, people kick you in your teeth, and then you start over and over and over and over and over again. And then after you make enough offers, you'll start getting deals. And when you start understanding how to make offers, you'll make better offers, and then you'll be able to recognize good deals when you see them. It's like I said, it's simple to do, but it's big to think about. Um, but you just got to take action, be willing to to do the hard work to make it happen. um, but I mean, I believe anybody can do it. Maybe not everybody is as um predispositioned for it, but you can certainly train yourself to get there. Um, I I used to compare myself a lot to other folks, and well, he's 22 years old and he's got $2 billion. You see these people on Instagram or whatever, and something I never thought about until more recently was, that guy might have had even though he may not have come from money, he may have
Mhm.
had like cousin or an uncle or somebody that he saw,
Mhm.
a couple times a year or something, that had somehow given him some unfair advantage where he was like, oh, this is how he does it. And he knew that at the age of 10, and that little seed planted in his life just sprouted and grew, and it gave him a way to kind of accelerate faster than maybe me or somebody else. You just never know how someone, what had might have happened in their life. So it's hard to do because I'm guilty of it, but you can't compare to other people. You just got to run your own race. Um, I believe you got to have faith in God, uh, and trust that He's going to figure it out for you or help you figure it out, and just put one foot in front of the other and go.
I love that. I love that. And I know you mentioned, you took that course with Chad Carson. Talk to me about like your community and how that's been able to help you grow as an investor yourself.
Yeah. So, nothing but good things to say about Chad's group. You know, it's very powerful to have a group of people who are further ahead of you. Here's the what's in it for me kind of thing. So when you're trying to grow and you've got other people who've already done 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, whatever deals, and you're able just to shoot them a message, hey, this is what I'm seeing, or just post it on the group. This is what I'm going through. Does anybody have any experience with this? Um, you know, just it's paid for proximity. People
Mhm.
people kind of gets a bad taste in their mouth about mastermind groups and stuff like that, but it's really small minded to think that way. You got to get around people who are going to help you advance. And then I would say, arguably, even more so than that, when you are maybe running at the top or the middle of the pack, and there's people behind you, and you're able to grab them and help them get up. I mean, that I love helping people with that, man. I mean, it's and it's not really altruistic, you know, because I really get a dopamine hit off of helping people. You know, I like doing it. And I think that there's more deals to be done than anyone that all of us are going to do. I don't have to miss a deal so that you can get it, kind of thing. You know, it can be a win-win.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly what Anna and I mean, we're still in the builder phase. We have some units, and we know more than what we think, right? And if we're helping people get their first property, like that's one of the reasons why we both host local meetups. So, you know, just pro tip for anybody who's listening that is interested and wants to get their first deal, get inside of a room with people that are doing it, whether it's, you know, online or in person. I really love the in-person ones because you could actually see somebody and talk to them and connect with them. Something about a in-person meetup. I could go on a whole tangent on that. But our last question, Kyle, I mean, this has been a lot of fun. We'll have to have you come back on because, you know, so many pro tips. But we like to ask, you know, what can, you know, Anna and I and our audience help you with? Is there anything that you're looking for in the next month or this year to kind of help you with your business?
Yes. Yeah, so, I mean, I've been on a couple of podcasts the last couple of weeks or months, I should say. And I've been kind of verbalizing this number out loud. I posted it in Chad's group. I want to hit $500,000 of net income in 2026. So it seems big to me, but I'm going to do that through flips primarily. And I have another business too that will help supplement that, but not real estate related. But yeah, so I'm just looking for deals in the PD area of South Carolina. So anybody who might have a connection or, you know someone who has a distressed property they'd like to sell, or if you ride past a house every day and say, wow, that thing's ugly, I wish someone would fix it. Like, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. And you can check me out on Instagram or Facebook. You can message me. Work on a website. So circledproperties.com. It's already kind of halfway up, but by the time this comes out, it'll probably be even more established. So check it out there. And yeah.
Awesome. Kyle, you mentioned your social media. What is your Instagram handle? We'll make sure to put it in the show notes.
I think it's at Kyle Dory. I don't know. I can look it up and give it. I can look it up and give it to you, and you can stick it in the show notes. Yeah.
Awesome. Kyle, well, thank you so much. That's going to do it for another episode of the Agent to Investor podcast. Please like, share, subscribe if you found any value. And you can reach out to me at ngarcia official on all social platforms. And you can reach out to Anna at
I'm Anna Bylick _ realtor on Instagram and Anna Bylick everywhere else. And yes, it looks like if you just look up Kyle Dory, it shows up. I assume that's you.
There
you go. Thank you, Kyle. Tune into the next episode.
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys.